Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's been quite some time now, and today I want to talk about VNets. All right, when you talk about VNets, what does it really mean? So, what is a VNet? Okay, let me slide out a bit. Let's start by drawing this diagram here. Change the color over here. Now, I live in a house, and in this beautiful house, I have a router. Now, I'm going to try and use a different color for that. Okay. Now, this router is like this, and I have an SSID, and this ID is called home. Okay, now this physical building you see here, which is a yellow demarcation, is in a physical place. Okay, so if you are in Europe, you would have a zip code or a postcode, and that postcode brings me physically to this location. Now, if I was using a satellite navigation system or a map system, I would use something called a GPS because that identifies me 0.515212 and then 2.513.2, well, whatever. You get what I mean? So I can actually put a crosshair here with a satellite. Okay, if I can draw it better there from space. And I can definitely track to this location, which represents this whole demarcation. All right. Okay. Now, a VNet, it's simply this. It is actually the fundamental building block for your private network. And because I'm talking about Azure today, hence using the word VNet, it enables many types of your resources, such as your virtual machines, to securely communicate with each other. Well, the internet and your on premises networks. So a VNet really is a representation. So I want to use a keyword here, representation of a physical, network. But of course, in the cloud, it's no longer physical, but it definitely needs to be tangibly um, um, located somewhere. Okay. And so in the Azure world, we will call that location a region, and other people might just call it, for example, a zone. And for example, this could be North Europe. I've just called it Europe. Haha. Okay. And this is a physical location where this data center may reside. In this data center, I've been apportioned in my subscription, I've been given a location where I can host my networks. And so, one of the things I do is create a VNet. And the VNet practically says, let me just zoom out a bit. Come on, can I go down a bit more? Oh, Microsoft products. Here we go. All right, can zoom out. All right. I have a physical location where I have a VNet. So this VNet is one. Okay. And this VNet, I do have resources in this VNet. Now this VNet is too small. Let's make it a little bigger. So, and this, and then what I have is departments or compartments. And we call it in English subnets. So hence subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3. Now the S defines all of it. Okay. Now this VNet, all right, would need to have a dedicated CIDR. Now, the side that here really means that has an address space. I'm trying to use the right keywords, so it does help us all. So typically, I may have the 10.10.0.0/16 subnet. Now, this covers, let's take this over here, this whole chunk is like 16 is over 65,000 addresses. So I just say over 65,000 addresses. If you want a precise amount, you can check online. But 65,000 addresses, I can host in here for my devices. Of course, you will never use all that number of addresses for devices on there. But what you do is you give this subnet an identity from this block. So I will say, let's use a good color for that. I'm trying to use that color there. For subnet A or subnet 1, I'll use 10.10.0 network.0/24. So I'm using this first block. Subnet to 10.10. Yeah, I'm using this first one before we use the second one. And I'm using the 1.0/24. This is 10.10.2.0/24. Okay. And this guy would have devices in this subnet. Let's say another VM here, one VM, second VM, could have a load balancer, could have a storage account, could have another type of resource in here. Okay, it could be even AKS, Kubernetes. And all these guys need to have private IP addressing, and I'm using another keyword there, private, in order to communicate. So let's see, I've got 10.10.0 network. In this /24, I have about 254 addresses. Microsoft takes 3 of them, so I have 251 that I can use. So I give this guy here, this VM1, I give him 10.10, 10.10.0.20, 21, 22, 23, like that. You get it? So you are able to associate these VMs to IP addressing, and that gives them the right to speak to anything in this subnet. By default, this VNet allows communication between all the subnets. So part of this address space, the VNet might have something like a little router here, okay? And that allows traffic communication between subnet A or B or C or 1, 2, 3. So workloads in here by default can speak to workloads everywhere. Now, if you want to change that, you could stick a firewall in here, and the firewall, you create something called a UDR, okay, or a root table, RT. This is a symbol. Let's take a yellow around it so it's easier. And the root table says, allow these guys to send traffic through the firewall before they're allowed to speak to this guy. Now, when you do this, what you do is you get a firewall to, of course, do things like IDS and IPS, threat intelligence, and then, of course, if you want to do some important scans to prevent against malware or anything, you can do all that intelligence stuff over here. But not only that, you want this workload to get to the internet. You say that in the written table, I want my next hop for internet. So IP route to 0.0.0. All this, I want it to go through my network virtual appliance, which happens to be my firewall, and that goes to the internet. All right. So this is how it works. So your VNet is actually a representation of your network, okay, and it's in the cloud. Now, in on premises, and if I can zoom in again, on premises, I could have a building here. Now, this building may be located all the way in London, and in this building is our office. So that's office space. And of course, we have our printers and we have our servers. And we want these printers and servers to be able to speak to our cloud space where we have our Azure. And of course, for other people, they might be using other cloud providers. And I want to be able to talk to Azure. So we can print some reports from some of these workloads here all the way to this printer. So what I'll do is over here, I'll stick a file. In this file, I will create an IPsec tunnel, or let's say a site to site tunnel all the way. So let's create a tunnel here, all the way to Azure. And I will say that I allow this subnets. Now, the subnets I may have here might be, and it shouldn't overlap. So I can only use a 10.10.0. So let's say I do have 172.16.10.0/24 network. All right. So this subnet is allowed in my public facing IP on the firewall, maybe 202.72.x and y. So over here on Azure, I would go to my virtual network gateway. I'll create a connection. And in that connection, I would create an IP site-to-site VPN. And then I will specify that my peer, who happens to be, and let's use this color there, green, that I trust, his public IP address is 202.72.x and .y. And then the private IP address or internal IP address is the 172.16.10.0/24. All right. And once you establish a connection, you are able to ping this way and, of course, ping that way. Okay. So because you've created your VNet here, you are now able to speak from your physical location to a virtual location. But then within Azure, you can have a different subscription. Maybe that is in France. So let's say it's France Central, and you have a subscription there. And in this subscription, excuse me, I've got some water, guys. That's good. Thank you so much. So in this French subscription, you do have your workloads there in Azure, and you also have your VNets there. Okay. In these VNets, you do have some workloads in your subnets there. And so what you do is you want this VNet that sits here on Azure to speak to this VNet here. Let's try to use yellow for that. So what you do is, because you want to use the backbone of Azure to talk between VNet A and VNet B, you do something called a global peering, which is a fancy way of saying use the Azure backbone and allow communications between my North Europe and then my France Central VNets. Okay, so that is that. But then how about in Azure? create another VNet, and I want this VNet to talk to this green one to talk to this yellow VNet. Well, you guessed it. If you've been doing a little reading, let's use, what color should I use, guys? I don't know. What color is good near now. So let's start blues winning today. So between these two, you have to establish a connection. Now we call this one here peering. It's a VNet to VNet peering. Yeah. Okay. So that's peering. That's peering. And then between your company, which is in London, and to your VNets in the cloud here, you can use an IPsec or use Microsoft's glorified Express routes, which is also like that. Now, Express route takes a while to set up, and it involves speaking with your local ISP, the provider, who will now establish that BGP peering with Azure. Okay, so that is all there is to VNet. I'm going to try and see if I can, like summarize this for you. Let me see if I can create some space. Let me actually um, open something else. Um, Hold on a second, guys. Just pause this for a second. Hey, guys, welcome back. So we have a clean slate now. Yeah. All right. So we used yellow a lot the last time. I'm gonna use green here, and I'm gonna draw this beautiful box. And I'm gonna use yellow here, and I'm gonna draw the beautiful box. Then I'm gonna use red here, and I'm gonna draw this beautiful box. Well, that's quite a tiny box, isn't it, guys? So this is my on-premises network, and I'm gonna write the word here on premises network. And my on-premises network has access to this VNet one. And this VNet one needs to, it's actually our primary, whereas this VNet here really is our site recovery. So Azure Site Recovery VNet, and that's located in different locations. So let's say this was in North Europe, NE. Let's say that was in South Europe, if there was any region ever like that. Okay, but you get a drift, yeah? So in between these two, we have peering going on. So I could have a VM sitting here, and the VM will have a backup policy that takes the backup of this VM at a certain time of the hour, and it backs it up over here in South Europe, not Europe. Okay. So the advantage is that your VNet is serving your customers on the internet. So people have their computers here, and they're dialing into your services. It could be web services. It could be anything else that you're hosting, maybe an app, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't matter. As long as you have it, they can consume it. So, web app, it could even be a content delivery, you know. So, whatever you have here, they can consume it. All right. So, that's a happy customer so far. Um, but a customer is only happy when you have availability. So, I'm going to use this keyword here. Availability. All right. Now, this VNet needs to be up and running all the time. Azure guarantees that it's going to be up for you. And so what you do is your workloads that you spin up, let's say you spin up this VM, instead of having a single instance of this VM, you create a double instance of this VM. And then you put it in something called an availability zone. I call it AV zone, or at the worst, an availability set. Okay. Now it's availability zone. It means that one of these VMs could be in region one, data center in region one, and the other one could be in data center two of the same region. Okay. Or yeah, or another region. Okay. So that's availability sets and availability zones. All right. Now with the availability sets, mostly you have a chain of racks. All right. I'm gonna see if I can make my racks look a little better. And you have this VM, the yellow VM. Now this time it's a red. It's red over here. But this VM sits on all these three racks. And as you know, the rack is powered by electricity, and of course, it's got a hard drive, it's got a RAM, okay, and of course, the hard drive is your disk anyway. All right, it's got a RAM and it's got power. All right, power that's over here already, your power supply. So if this rack goes down, the rack one goes kaput, your systems goes down here if you're only stuck on one, but that can go to second one. That is availability sets. But what if the whole region goes down? It doesn't matter how much you've made it highly available here, it's of no point. And so what availability region does, zone does is it has a copy of this here, but also copy another region of your VMs. So if this one kaput, doesn't matter. This one, it's always up. Okay. So behind the scenes, Microsoft knows how to intelligently send the traffic this way. All right. Okay. And so you have a backup to your of your VMs over here. Okay. And that's it. Okay. So that's really availability. Okay. All right. One of the ways to make sure that you serve your customers because they come in a lot, uh, and you may have million of your customers coming to your web page. That's a lot of load on just one server. So what you do intelligently is server one, server two, they are replica. So a replica means whatever is here is also on there. Okay. So let me use the keyword there again. It's replica. And so what is taken in front of these two servers, it's a load balancer. Okay. Now the load balancer has an IP address. Okay. Sometimes they call it the front end IP. And that's the IP address that will be in your internet registrar, DNS, for your website. Let's say your website is called um, expertnetworkconsultant.com. When you go there, this load balancer will now check and see which of these is healthy because it has something called health probes, HPs, health probes, okay, probes, PROBES. It will send traffic this way and that way and always this way and that way, and we'll keep serving the traffic this way and that way. But as for you, over here, you don't see any difference because the copy is the same. The website is serving is the same. So what people do in the industry sometimes is they make sure that these two servers, they have um, a copy of the website uh, in one location. All right. So they can all read from that mounted volume, and then the website file will be here. So whichever one you hit, you can read this, read the website. Whichever one you hit, you can read. But some others may want to just build this like for like and and put the code across. Okay. So these are some of the things that you can do with VNets, and you can spin your workloads. You can connect your networks from your on-premises to this VNet, and at the same time to that VNet in separate regions. And this could be region one, and this could be region two. Okay, and of course, you can do intelligent things with application gateways and traffic managers and what have you. But for today, I'll just talk about VNets and tell you the importance of having them. I hope this video has helped you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.